Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Crossing the Line. We're going to have a look at this crazy last couple of weeks in the news. We've had Trump and JD Vance grilling Zelensky in the Oval Office, and Zelensky, being a petulant child that he is, kicking up a stink that that mummy and daddy won't give him any more pocket money. We've also had Australia fighting off warships, Chinese warships sailing around Australia, unbeknownst to our military apparently, and we're just going to leave it up to civilian aircraft to find and search our seas for any foreign invaders apparently. Also down in Melbourne, a radio host for a so-called comedian has been under fire and he's been sacked from his job for making a joke against our beloved Matildas. If you don't know who that is, it's a congregation of butch lesbians that kick a ball around and actually have been beaten by the under 16s boys. And we really don't like the Matildas, but, you know, for some reason, the mainstream media keeps prompting us to like them and putting them up on a pedestal. So we're going to get into that, and we're going to start off with a CNN story about Australia's lackluster military and how that we've really dropped the ball here, and Albo, our Prime Minister, has really screwed the pooch. This is something that he should be ousted for. This is something he should be dragged over the coals for and under investigation, letting our sovereign seas, letting our military come under threat like this due to his lack of leadership and due to his poor planning and cutting of military budgets. Now, Australia's found out about Chinese Navy live fire drills through a commercial pilot, officials say. This is a story from CNN, so take it with a grain of salt, but sometimes they do get things right. So, Seoul, South Korea, Australia learned of Chinese live-fire naval drills off the country's coast that forced dozens of flights to be diverted via an alert from commercial pilot, authorities said on Monday. The PLA Navy's unprecedented show of firepower in waters between Australia and New Zealand has raised alarm both countries in recent days as a clearer picture emerges how much warning Beijing gave about these exercises. The first notice of the Chinese drills in the Tasman Sea came in a radio transmission to an emergency frequency monitored by Virgin Australia passenger jet on Friday, according to Australian officials. The Virgin pilot relayed the information to the Australian aviation authorities, who then issued a hazard alert via air traffic control. Air Services Australia CEO Rob Sharp told a parliamentary hearing. Air Services Australia Deputy CEO Peter Curran told the hearing that at least 49 aircraft diverted their flight paths on Friday to avoid the flotilla of 3 Chinese warships conducting the exercise. The New Zealand Australian government said China did not issue a notice to airmen about the drills that they said took place in 2 rounds of the Tasman Sea on Friday and Saturday. China's Ministry of Defence said Sunday the exercise was conducted in international waters compelled with international law and did not affect aviation safety. It also slammed Australia for hyping up the drills and making unreasonable accusations. Now, Australia has really dropped the ball here. Our government has screwed the pooch. Our Defence Force has failed the Australian people, letting Chinese military vessels float through our waters and around Australia without any knowledge of them being here. Like, what's the go? Like, we have a Virgin Australia flight finding them. How is it that the public sector has more information about what Chinese military is doing than our military sector? This is a massive this is a massive issue. This is a glaring issue. There's an elephant in the room that we cannot defend our borders. We cannot even see who's in our ocean without the public coming through and telling us. I mean, we've had off the Sunshine Coast and Gold Coast, we've had submarines pop up out of nowhere and a couple of 100 meters from shore. People have taken photos, and we don't know whether they're Australian, American, Chinese, or anything. We just don't know. They haven't been, we have our own submarines, but we get told nothing. And the Australian people are out there spotting them. The military has failed the Australian people here. And it's through things like cutting of budgets and mishandling of funds and, bending over and licking China's boots like Albo and the government seems to do. They just love China for some reason. And they seem to be really, putting us offside with the Americans. The Americans, whether you love or hate Trump, I really don't care, whether it was Biden government or what, but the Americans are really being ousted from Australia at the moment, and that's a bad idea. Seeming they spend nearly, was it $800 billion to secure the seas around the Philippines and Australia from aggression from China and Russia and North Korea and things like that. They spend a lot of their money, a lot of their taxpayer money on defending Australia, and they don't have to do that. They do not have to do that, as we've seen with things with Doge that Trump's been cutting and looking into. Anyway, they spend a lot of money in some stupid places, and they don't have to do that. This is imagine your taxpayer dollars going to defend other people in other countries, then those people in those countries hanging shit on you and throwing shade at you for doing it. So if it was me, I'd be like, well, you don't get our money, you don't get our defense. And if we do not have the capability to even defend ourselves or even monitor our oceans without America's help, and with America's help, it's a pretty sad state of affairs, and it just shows how vulnerable we are. Though the drills were held in international waters, Beijing could have given Australia and New Zealand heads up much sooner in the interests of safety, naval experts said. Defence analyst Jennifer Parker, former Australian naval officer, wrote in a blog post on Sunday that the Chinese spy ships did not violate international law and well within their rights to conduct live fire drills where they did, in the open ocean. It's not aggressive, it's just what warships do at high seas, Parker wrote. There is no legal obligation for foreign warships to notify coastal nations over 300 nautical miles away from live firing activities in the sea. So 300 nautical miles, I'm just going to put it into perspective. A lot of their munitions, specifically like cruise missiles, things like that, they can go over 300 miles. 300 miles is not that long. It's not that big of a range, honestly. So they can get quite close to our coast without even having to notify us, apparently. We should have known they were there without them having to tell us they were there. But Parker and the Chinese ships may have not followed best practices under which live fire drills should maintain a safe distance from commercial flight routes. Indications from flight diversion suggest the Chinese warships may have been too close to civilian air transit routes. If this is the case, it represents poor practice that warrant diplomatic discussion, she wrote. Analyst Carl Schuster, a former US Navy captain, was blunter. Forcing aircraft to divert from internationally recognised routes is considered unsafe and irresponsible, Schuster said. Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said on Sunday that while China's drills comply with international law, Beijing could have given more notice. Judith Collins, a Defence Minister of New Zealand, said China's warning should have come hours earlier. There was a warning to civil aviation flights, of basically a very short amount of notice, a couple of hours, as opposed to what we would consider best practice, which is 12 to 24 hours notice, so that aircraft are not having to be diverted when they are on the wing, she told public broadcaster Radio New Zealand. Now, standard operating procedure for military is to make their own little safety bubble, make sure no one enters that bubble, and anyone in that bubble is aware that they are conducting live fire military exercises. Now, just go and ask yourself, why would China sail down to Australia, in between New Zealand and Australia, and conduct live fire training down here? They've got plenty of ocean around their own country. But no, they came down here to cause a stir, to kind of put us on the back foot and show us that they're capable of getting to our shores, which they are. In a protracted war, I think China would fare very badly. There's no way you could ever invade China. That is where they're strongest, but there is no way China could ever invade Australia. They could definitely do a lot of damage to us, especially economically, with cutting trade routes, cutting flight routes. As we've just seen here, just these ships here, without even being at war, they can disrupt massive amounts of flights. And shipping lanes, if they were to do something like that in the middle of a shipping lane and maybe possibly accidentally hit a ship, it would cause massive amount of backlog in the shipping industry, like we saw when that Evergreen ship crashed into the Suez Canal and got stuck there. We noticed how backlog and everything got so quickly. I mean, we already had issues with COVID, and things like that don't take much to snowball and become a massive problem. If you stop one ship, I remember when I was working in the mines, if we held a ship there for any longer than it needed to be, every hour was like a minimum $15,000 fine waiting. That ship had to be making money. They need to be moving constantly. They can't just hang around. So when those ships are sitting, that's a lot of money going to waste, and that's a lot of people not getting their products, not getting, live exports, whether it's fruit, vegetables, fish, animals, livestock, things like that. That can cause an absolute snowball effect, and that is why America keeps the seas safe around the globe. That is why they are tasked. That's why they have the biggest navy. That's why they're tasked with keeping our seas safe from pirates and anyone that would do them harm, including China, Russia, and, even just the Somali pirates down off the coast of Somalia attacking ships. I mean, you've probably all seen that movie with, what's his name in it, the pedophile actor. Oh, gee, how many of them could that be? Oh, maybe all of them. Tom Hanks, where, they go and capture ships with just a couple of AKs and RPGs, and that causes a big enough stir anyway. If we were ever to go to war with China, or at least they would get to go to war with Taiwan, we would start seeing massive repercussions here in Australia. We would obviously lose all of our exports to China immediately. That would stop. Any of our ships that are in their docks or in their ports would be seized immediately. We'd never get them back. All the resources there would be gone. Anything in motion there would have to be deterred and sent away from China back home or to other countries. Things like that. It would be an absolute unmitigated disaster just in that small spectrum of the problem there. Just the shipping alone. I mean, our biggest export is to China, and the biggest import from China is, it's insane to think what would happen if we went to war with China. But we need to have a strong military, strong navy, strong air force, and a strong defense posture to make sure that China does not just walk in here and land on our shores and tell us what to do and dictate things on their terms. We need a stronger military. We need a stronger defense. We need a stronger prime minister. We need a stronger leader that actually takes care of this country first and deters China from screwing us over, whether it's a financial trade deal or whether it's, just doing things like this, making us look stupid by going sailing ships off our coast without our knowledge. Albo has really screwed the pooch on this one, and I hope it comes to bite him in the arse in the next upcoming election that should be coming up soon. Hopefully they call an election soon. Following on with that story, we've got a new story from news.com.au. ADF missed live fire warning because surveillance assets were out of range. The Chief of Defence Force revealed why Virgin Australia pilot found out while the Chinese live fire drills before the military. The Australian Defence Force missing a warning from Chinese warships of live fire drills in the Tasman Sea because it did not have access to the radio frequency that the vessels were using. A Senate estimates a hearing as heard. Admiral David Johnson confirmed Wednesday the ADF only learnt that the Chinese exercise last Friday after a Virgin Australian pilot alerted air traffic controllers. Not only did the revelation appear to conflict with the timeline of who knew what when, put forward by Anthony Albanese, but sparked questions about how the commercial airline knew of the drills before the military assets monitoring the foreign ships. It was revealed earlier this week that the Chinese message was broadcast on an emergency channel monitored by airlines, but not the Air Services Australia nor the ADF. Coalition Senator James Patterson, the remarkable that Australia is relying on civilian aircraft for early warning about military exercises by a formidable foreign task group in our region after the ADF chief's admission. But this is a series of queries for the Greens. Senator David Shoebridge, the Greens are all commie scum, got an answer. If you know that the announcement about live fire would have happened on the civil aviation frequency with the defence monitoring through the whole time at the range, where you'd pick it up from the flotilla. Admiral Johnson explained it was not possible with how Australia's surveilling assets were placed, Senator. That's a short-term radio frequency, he said. So basically it's a short radio frequency, and the only reason that the plane picked it up in the first place was that they were close enough to get it. That's not the issue, is how they found it, honestly. The issue is that China thinks so little of us as a country and cares for our sovereignty so little that they're willing to sail their ships into our waters and fire missiles and do live fire exercises without telling us. That is the issue. It's not how they found it, or whether our ships were close enough or planes were close enough to find them. that's the issue, is they think so little of us that they're willing to just walk all over us like that and not come out and say, hey guys, we're going to do a live fire training here. And what they're practicing for is war against us. It's war against Australia that they're practicing for. It's not just they're not going fishing. They're practicing for war against the Australian people and New Zealand. That's what they're practicing for. And the amount of respect, the little amount of respect that they have is obviously gone out the window when they just go and do that on our doorstep without even saying anything about it. It's pretty disrespectful, if you ask me. But with that at stake, we mean war with China. We've obviously got war with Russia brewing and issues with Zelensky in the White House. Causing a ruckus. I mean, just going into the White House and saying, talking to Trump like he did. If you've seen the footage, it's everywhere on Twitter, everywhere on the internet. You go see the footage. Zelensky loses his cool and cracks off at Trump and JD Vance, and they have zero of it. They give it back to him. Now, Zelensky, I think he's kind of screwed himself over here, but I mean, you don't bite the hand that feeds you, especially when they're feeding you your livelihood, which is the only thing keeping you alive is American and European money at this point. If America pulls the plug on Ukraine, they are gone within 24 hours. The war will be over because they will have to capitulate and do what Putin says. If Trump just says, look, that's it, no more money, go on, pull the pin, that's it, it's over 24 hours, Zelensky probably will be captured, killed or something, and Ukraine will be. Now we've got this other story here. Ukraine war briefing. Zelensky willing to restore dialogue with Trump as European leaders head to UK for defence summit. European heads of government and leaders of Canada and Turkey will attend talks aimed at presenting the united front on the Ukraine crisis, what we know on day 1103. Now, if you missed it, Vladimir was invited to the White House. I think he was just in there begging for money again. But, it is what it is. They're sitting in the Oval Office and talking to the press with just about every single person there, filming, recording, and watching. He decides to crack a hissy fit because they're talking about ending the war, and his piggy bank and his cash funnel are going to be cut off. And Trump and JD didn't let him just sit there and get away with it. They hammered him there in full view of everyone. I mean, that kind of thing happens behind closed doors during negotiation talks and things like that. That's generally what a negotiation is. It just happened in full view of everyone. I suggest you go and find the video on X and watch it. I've retweeted it at least once. But go and have a look. It's insane that he has the gall, this gay actor who dresses up in sequins and dances and has just found himself as the Prime Minister or the President in this really rough time for them at the moment. And he's trying to dictate terms to the people who are giving him money and giving him funds. It doesn't work like that. It just goes to show that they don't care about you. The American people are, Australia to an extent, England, Canada, all those countries, we're all chipping in for this, but the American people are the ones funding this war. They're the ones giving over the paying their taxes and it all going to this war. Whether or not it's being printed and just, don't get into the whole world banking system, but, they're the ones suffering the most about this. They've got a massive fentanyl crisis in the US. The healthcare system is none. I mean, at least in Australia, all my taxes go, I can still go to the hospital for free. They can't do that. They pay something like $700 for an asthma puffer, or $4,000, $6,000 for an ambulance ride. And they're the ones funding the war. And the people who said, no, we don't want to do it anymore, we're voting for Trump, he's going to cut the war, he's going to cut the funding, stop the war, make a peace deal. And Zelensky has the gall, the audacity to go and take a dump on the floor of the Oval Office, basically, in front of everyone. And now I think he's realised, oh shit, I've just bitten the hand that feeds. And I might have to do some capitulation here. Because if this war doesn't end, Zelensky's a dead man. If the war ends and Russia wins, Zelensky's a dead man. The only way that this puppet is going to live is if they find a peace deal. And even then, honestly, Russia might just, give him a radioactive pill or something in his cup of tea like they've done before. He's a marked man, and if they lose a little bit of land, and the land that Russia wants, and that was probably mostly pro-Russian, honestly, anyway. If they lose a little bit of land, they can always at least sit there and say, beat the war drum still for the rest of his life. He'd be like a Greta Thunberg of climate change, but for like Ukraine. He can sit there and carry on about it and just, save face. But he doesn't even want to do that, which I understand. Like, if Australia was invaded by China, I'd be out there on the front lines just like everybody. Well, not everybody anymore, but, it's hard to say that they obviously should defend themselves, and I wish they'd just win it outright, but it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. We're going to be realistic about this. That Ukraine is running out of people. Ukraine will run out of people before we run out of money to send them. So then what happens? We send them our people as well. And then it's our people dying in World War III for a country that people can't even point out on a map. Same with Taiwan. It's like they've done a good job. They need to, cut their fucking losses when they can. It sucks, yeah, it does, but how many hundreds of thousands of people have died? It's a fruitless endeavour just to save a small land bridge that Russia's after. They're not going to go for Poland. They're not going to push their way into, Western Europe or they're not going to. They're not. They can't. And we've seen just the small amount of, fighting that relatively small. I mean, it's very bad when you're there, I'm sure, but like, compared to a world war, it's relatively small amount of fighting that's going on there. Russia is having a fucking hard time of it. And I don't blame them. I mean, you got the entire world pitted against you, basically. To the point where they're getting North Korean soldiers in there, and they're, conscripting people out of prisons and things like that. I mean, they're having a hard go. So if they're not going to, and they will not be able to push forward, what they need to do is sue for peace. Zelensky needs to sue for peace. America needs to negotiate it. Get their money's worth out of there. I mean, they've spent how many hundreds of billions of dollars there. And then figure it out and stop the killing. Like, it can't just keep going on and on and on. They might, keep the eastern side of the river, was it Dnieper River or whatever it is, so they can get down to Crimea and they have their land route to the sea, things like that. It's, it's so... People just do not understand what it's like. I mean, I don't, but I have a better understanding than most what it's like to be at war and in a war scenario. Like, I don't think the Australian people that are voting for this war to continue and the American people that are voting for this war to continue just to keep sending money understand what it is to be walking down a street that is bombed out and dead bodies everywhere. Have you seen the carnage on X? Have you seen the videos out on Twitter of mass, like, drone strikes on people? People blowing their own brains out. There's dozens of those videos of Russian soldiers killing themselves because they're just over the fighting and running away from a little buzzing drone. Like, it's fucking rough, man. Like, this World War III, it's gonna be worse than World War One. The trenches of, France and Germany and England, just thousands and hundreds of thousands of people going over the top. That was utter mince meat grinding, humanity ending, like, utter carnage beyond a scale of which the world has never seen. And World War III is going to eclipse World War One and Two. Like, as soon as someone starts launching nukes, whether it's a small tactical nuke or whether it's a say bombing the Chernobyl sarcophagus or something like that, which I still believe was Ukraine. Things like that. People do not understand what they are voting for when they want World War III to happen. I'll stop yammering on. We'll get it back into the story. Volodymyr Zelensky is willing to restore dialogue with the US French President Emmanuel Macron, he said, after speaking with the Ukrainian leader following the disastrous Whitehouse exchange with the US President Donald Trump on Friday. Macron said that the dialogue would include a deal that would give US revenues from Ukraine's natural resources. Macron also spoke to Trump, and he did not reveal any detail about the call. The White House has no immediate comment. Macron's comments come as Zelensky arrived in London ahead of the summit of the European leaders on Sunday that the Ukrainian president will attend to discuss a peace plan for Russia-Ukraine war. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer will host the European heads of government at the leaders of Canada, Turkey, and the Special Defence Summit aimed at presenting a united front on Ukraine. So they're going to get together, waste a whole bunch of money just pretending that they're going to try to figure out a peace deal when all they're going to do is give Zelensky more money, give Zelensky more troops and resources, and keep the war going. Now, France has been talking a big game about sending troops in. So has England or the UK. They do that. It's World War III. I mean, you start killing NATO troops, UN troops, whatever it is. You start killing French troops, English troops, American troops, German troops. Where are the Italians in all this? Who have they sided with this time? I don't know. No one really cares about Italy. But they start killing European troops. It's going to escalate into a point where there's no return. And I don't think Russia has really unloaded their full arsenal on this situation. They're kind of being reserved, I'd think. Possibly not. I'm not a military expert, but they seem to be getting their ass handed to them in a lot of these conflicts. I mean, Ukraine is definitely losing, but I mean, Russia is paying for it in blood, but that is the Russian way. They do not mind sending mass amounts of bodies into machine gun fire, or drone fire in this case, to win a small, tiny victory. They do not care. They have the manpower for it. I mean, China and North Korea also have the manpower, and they are also involved. And it'd be interesting to see whether India might even, honestly, in a World War III scenario, India might side with them. There's a high chance it could side with them. And, mind you, nuking India isn't out of the question on a normal day-to-day basis without any war. All you'd have to do is drop probably a couple of tons worth of soap in the middle of Delhi, and you'd probably, have something like a nuclear bomb going off. Anyway, people keep pushing on this war agenda, and they keep pushing forward, and they're attacking Donald Trump over it, and they're trying to oust Donald Trump as, he was rude to Zelensky. How dare he be rude to Zelensky? That motherfucker is in his house, is literally in his house. The White House is where he lives. It's not his place to question the president, the man who's paying him, who's giving him everything he needs to defend his country. It is not his. It's not his place to say shit when it comes to that. But I don't know. I digress. What do you guys think about it anyway? We're going to get into this story. This one here is from The Guardian. If you don't know who the Matildas are, I envy you thoroughly. Now, the Matildas are, a little group of lesbians that like to kick a ball around, and Australia pretends that they're good. You might have remembered their leader, Sam Kerr, a couple of weeks ago was in some dirty hot water for throwing up in a cab in the UK and then refusing to pay for cleaning, harassing the cab driver, trying to kick in his windows with a drunken lesbian friend, and then calling a cop white bastard or something like that along those lines, which I really don't care what you call cops. I mean, they deserve it half the time anyway. But getting in trouble for saying someone's a white bastard, I don't really care. But it needs to be a two-way street. Like, you can't say white bastard if I can't say, I'm not going to say that on YouTube because I'm better than that. If you want to hear me say it, go onto Rumble and or X. But so no one really cares about the Matildas because they're useless and they're shit at their job. And we just pump their team full of money to keep them playing because that's, DEI for you. But we'll get into the story here. Just a joke, gendered commentary on women's sports is unnecessary and damaging for Megan. Oh, Megan. You have a face like a smashed crab. From someone who looks like that, honestly, like you couldn't get raped in a refugee camp in the middle of Syria, honestly. But, let's all listen to this woman and her great opinion, shall we? Great strides have been made in the past few years, but Marty Sheargold's Triple M radio rant shows a battle for equality is far from over. It was just a joke. How many times have those words been uttered over the years as self-proclaimed good blokes slip up and make comments that appear to reveal their real views? By now, many thousands of words have been written about Triple M presenter Marty Sheargold and his joke that missed the mark about the Matildas. However, it's the attitudes that this joke represent that are most interesting to examine. Much of the backlash, former hockey roo Rosie Maloney posted a clip from Sheargold's show on Instagram was from people expressing shock that this kind of attitude still exists in 2025. My God, can you imagine men don't like watching women's sports in 2025? It's because it's been shit for the entire time it's been there. It's been subsidized by men. I mean, I don't watch soccer or football anyway, but women's sports is a joke in this industry. I mean, soccer is gay anyway. I mean, no one really cares. But about women's soccer, women's football, women's tennis, it's, maybe women's tennis. I mean, you got some big names. I mean, everyone knows some of the, Maria Sharapova and things like that. I mean, everyone knows some of those names. Maybe you guys are just shit at your job. Maybe that's the problem. There was a sense, particularly after the success of a Women's World Cup on home soil in 2023. Success! There wasn't any success. The women's sport had finally overcome the last of its barriers. But comments like this keep bringing to light the very real-life beliefs that lie just below the surface, ready to unveil themselves as soon as women have the nerve to put out a subpar performance. It only takes a quick perusal of the comments section of a news website and social media channels of the articles posted about these women's sports to see jokes like Sheargold's rear their head multiple times. While many assume that these beliefs are held by a minority of older men, dinosaurs who cannot move from the times while the rest of us have evolved. Oh, God. This is going to be a tough one. Incidents like this expose the widespread nature of these opinions. While they may seem out of touch, these opinions persist because they are held up by the actions of those in power. Now, let's give you some background on this. This guy, Marty Sheargold, apparently a Triple M radio host in Melbourne. Not that anyone would listen to that. Who listens to radio, honestly, anymore. He made a rather off-the-cuff joke that he would rather nail his pecker to the table than watch women's soccer or women's football or something along those lines. Whatever it was. I don't blame him. Maybe that's a kink of his, but yeah, honestly, he's not far off the point. Like, it's a joke. He's a comedian, apparently, and even if he's not a comedian, you're allowed to make jokes, whether you're a comedian or not. And apparently, all the lesbians in Australia are rather upset about that. When women are still paid a fraction of what their male counterparts receive. Okay, you are paid less because you do less. Every woman in my industry is paid the same, if not more than me, per hour. I work longer hours means I get more money. This is simple for you. We'll slow it right down. I'll get a crayon and I'll fucking write it down for you. When you do less work and produce less, you get paid less. We're not paying you just more because you have a vagina. Okay? Can we figure that out? Because this lie about like the gender pay gap in just about everything is really friggin' old now. How many like times you women want to be proved wrong? Oh my God. None of this is to say that women are above criticism. Oh, no. Perish the thought. No doubt the Matildas themselves would understand the valid critique that has been levelled at them for their losses thus far in the She Believes Cup. Oh, She Believes Cup. That sounds fucking great. There are many analytical, well-thought-out articles that have been published over the last week which have not drawn this ire. The issue comes from the fact that these comments from Sheargold were so unnecessarily gendered. Oh, here we go. By comparing the term team to 10-year-old girls, he draws on the social attitudes of girls, and girlishness are instinctively laughable and yet unserious. There is a long history of society not taking girls seriously. It's because you're not serious. What's that old saying? If it bleeds for a week and doesn't die, I won't trust it. From mocking the kind of music they like, which is fair because most of you bitches listen to Taylor Swift and shit like that, and that's disgusting. Hey, out there are plenty of heavy metal chicks that I admire. There are plenty of heavy metal chick singers. There's heaps of them. You got Lasuna Coil. You got what's a less. Oh, Pretty Reckless. She's great. Even Lady Gaga's got some bangers. But you know, there's plenty of awesome chicks in the music industry. It's just Taylor Swift is not one of them. I know she makes a lot of money, has a lot of fans, but she is not one of them. And pointing that out and making jokes about it is just the Australian way. I don't know. Maybe get over yourselves a little bit. From mocking their kind of music and the books they read, like 50 Shades of Grey and Twilight, which are, mock away. Everyone gets to mock them. They speak the way they speak, they run, they throw. Oh, is it throw like a girl comment? Oh, hurt someone's feelings. But putting the Matildas in the realm of girls, you are girls. Sheargold was trying to, whether consistently or consciously, or unconsciously, take away the little power they had earned from dragging women's sport into the spotlight. The only reason that the Matildas is in the spotlight is for bad things. It's because your racist team leader got drunk in a cab and threw up everywhere and then called a copper a white cunt or something. It's not because you were playing well. It's not because you won anything. It's not because you did a good job. It's because your team leader's a whinging bitch. Whoopie-doo. It's every time the Matildas come out into public spotlight, it's always some home and away drama. It's never because they did good and they won this match and look how well we're doing, yay, lesbians. It's not because of anything positive. It's always negative. So maybe if you stop, focusing on the drama aspect and Instagramming and, going out and getting drunk and throwing up in people's fucking cabs, you might... and focus, all your time and energy on learning how to play better, you might actually, do a better fucking job. It's particularly worrying that the comparison to girls seems so naturally derogatory, further solidifying the notion that the very idea of girls playing sport is comical. It is comical in a lot of ways. As Melbourne AFLW player Sared Taylor noted on Instagram, year 10 is when girls around 15 years old, which is precisely the age when many girls stop playing sport. Do you know why? Do you know why they stop playing sport at 15? I'm not going to say it. Anyway, it's because they're not kids anymore and they're growing up into adults and they have other things on their mind. Whether it's boys, whether it's possibly going and having kids in the future or getting a job, sports, you don't get to just live in the reality where I'm a kid all the time and playing sports, it's great. When you turn 15, a lot of the time, I was out homeless when I was 14, so I already had a full-time job. when you're 15, a lot of kids have other things on their mind. Probably a lot of it's just social media and shit like that. With concerted efforts being made to keep the girls participating in sport, whether or not they may be the future Matildas or simply lifelong grassroots participants, it is disheartening to see that the persistent idea is allowed to flourish. Commentary like she goals is one of the reasons that who are deeply embedded in women's sports are so wary of outsiders of the first move is not to come in with a condemnation because it quickly becomes gendered. It is not simply a poor performance of a team or individual. It is demonization that women are simply not suited for tough landscape of sport. Women are not suited for a lot of things. Men are not suited for a lot of things as well. It's just the way the world works. I'm sorry, this woman who wrote this article, it may be retarded, I'm not sure, but Megan Maurice, shame on you for, I'm going to put it out there, $20 that she's a lesbian, and blames men for everything. Like most women on Twitter who are complaining about men, blame men for everything. But no one cares about the Matildas because you guys don't care about the Matildas. The women don't care about the Matildas, so why the fuck should men? If the women can't come out and watch them play and support them, donate money, and give them funding and things like that, and the government has to give them funding because no one else will, then that's not our fault as a man. It's not our fault that you guys can't kick a goal or do whatever you do. I don't know. You look like a bunch of retards anyway. But it's not our fault as a man because you guys don't support your own female teams. Because men, I guarantee you, are the highest majority or highest group of individuals that watch any sports, probably including women's sports. I'd say that men probably watch more women's sports than women watch women's sports. Just by, I have to Google that. I'm just making shit up right now. Let's go with it. But women don't watch sports in general compared to men. And you look at things like UFC. You've got some fantastic fighters out there like Ronda Rousey. Fantastic. I remember the first time I ever saw a fight. The best fight of the night was two chicks kickboxing the absolute piss out of each other. And there's some tough women. But you bitches running around kicking a ball, falling over and pretending that you hurt yourself, and then getting drunk and blaming it on the white man. You're not winning any friends. You're not winning any actual tough women that have, I don't know, I wouldn't say balls, but tough women, like people that get in a ring and beat the shit out of another person, or they've been through a lot. They've had kids and are a tough son of a bitch. I've met some tough women in my life, and I've got a sister who's 1 out of 6 of us, and she is a tough son of a bitch, I'll give you that. But these women that are earning quite a lot of money for doing quite a little amount of winning and doing anything, and they're, all the money with the sponsors and Instagram and Facebook and all that crap they make as well, they do fuck all for it. They just complain. And I feel bad for the other chicks on the Matildas team that don't do the shit that Sam Kerr does and are just there to play the game and carry on. But, maybe get rid of the bull dyke leading them and cut your losses. You're allowed to make jokes here in Australia for now. Nailing your dick to a table instead of watching the Matildas is a funny joke. Is it the best joke? No. Is it the crudest joke? Definitely not. Have you ever watched anything that on the internet before? Have you seen some funny things on the internet before? I don't know. But Australia has lost its way with being able to joke about shit. And I don't think it's actually Australia as a whole. I think it's just a bunch of woke bitches in Melbourne and Brisbane and Sydney and Adelaide. And to an extent that people even have the internet in Perth. Who knows? Darwin, they definitely don't have the internet. They're all drunk up there anyway. But, the people that are turning this into something that it's not really should have a deep, hard look at themselves. Someone made a joke about the Matildas. Fucking get over it. No one cares, bro. Like, can't turn this into some women's suffrage shit because someone made a joke about their shitty performance. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you reckon Australia is headed for the dumps with China circling us, Zelensky dragging us into World War III, and the Matildas killing us from within? And we're getting, fired from our jobs for making jokes. Hopefully that happens to me. It'd be quite entertaining anyway. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next episode. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.